The alarm rang through the medical bay at 0347 hours. Vrix's three eyes snapped open immediately. As the chief medical officer of the Horizon's Edge, he had learned to wake fast. His long, thin fingers reached for his medical scanner before his brain fully processed what was happening. Medical emergency in Cargo Bay 7, the ship's computer announced in its calm voice. One crew member injured. Severity unknown. Vrix ran on his four legs, his body low to the ground as he moved through the corridors. Behind him, two medical assistants followed with the emergency equipment. The cargo bay was 3 decks down. It took them 2 minutes to arrive. When the doors opened, Vrix saw something that made no sense. A human stood near the entrance of the cargo bay. His name was Taman, one of the engineering crew. His uniform was torn and covered in dark red blood. His left arm hung at a wrong angle. His face was pale, almost white. But he was standing. "Good morning, Dr. Vrix," Taman said. His voice was steady, almost casual. "Sorry to wake you. I had a small accident. Might need some attention." Then he fell forward. Vrix caught him before he hit the floor. The human was heavy, much heavier than he looked. Vrix's assistants rushed forward with the medical bed. They lifted Taman onto it carefully. "Get him to the medical bay now," Vrix ordered. "Full scan. Prepare for emergency surgery." As they moved through the corridors, Vrix ran his medical scanner over the human's body. The device beeped and flashed red. More red than Vrix had ever seen. The scanner showed injuries throughout the entire body. They reached the medical bay. Vrix's hands moved fast, checking vital signs, connecting monitoring equipment. The large scanner above the medical bed hummed to life. It projected a 3-dimensional image of Taman's body in the air above him. What Vrix saw made him freeze. 17 bones were broken. The left arm had 3 fractures. 4 ribs on the right side were cracked or broken. The left leg had a broken femur and tibia. The right ankle was shattered. The collarbone on both sides showed clean breaks. Several fingers were fractured. The scan showed severe internal bruising across the chest and abdomen. The left lung had collapsed. There were signs of internal bleeding in 3 places. "This is impossible," Vrix whispered. "He walked here. He spoke to me." His assistant, a young female named Prilla, checked the scan 3 times. "The readings are correct, doctor. These injuries are accurate." Vrix had been a doctor for 37 years. He had treated hundreds of species across the galaxy. He knew one absolute truth. Injuries like this were fatal. Even if they were not immediately fatal, the pain alone would shut down any nervous system. No creature could remain conscious. No creature could walk. No creature could speak calmly about a small accident. But humans were not like other species. Vrix was learning this now. He called the bridge. "Captain Voress, this is medical. I need to speak with you about the human crew member. Is he alive?" The captain's voice was tight with concern. "Yes, but Captain, you need to see this scan. His injuries should have killed him. They should have killed him twice over. But he walked to the medical bay and spoke to me before losing consciousness." There was silence on the other end. Then, "I'm coming down. Secure him, doctor." Vrix worked quickly. He injected medicines to stop the internal bleeding. He used the bone regenerator on the worst fractures. Human bones were strange. They responded to treatment faster than most species. The broken ribs began to knit together under the regenerator's energy field. He inflated the collapsed lung with careful pressure. Taman's breathing improved immediately. The monitors showed his heart rate was fast but strong. His blood pressure was stabilizing. Captain Voress arrived 10 minutes later. He was tall, even for his species, with 8 legs and a body covered in fine silver hair. His multiple eyes examined the scan floating above the medical bed. "Explain this to me, doctor," the captain said quietly. Vrix gestured to the image. "Every bone highlighted in red is broken. The dark areas show internal bleeding and bruising. The lung here was collapsed. These injuries occurred approximately 30 minutes ago based on the cellular damage." "And he walked here?" "He walked 3 decks up from Cargo Bay 7. He climbed 2 ladders because the lifts were offline for maintenance. He spoke to me calmly. He apologized for waking me." Captain Voress was silent for a long moment. His species was known for being calm and logical. Very little surprised them. But Vrix could see surprise now. "What happened in the cargo bay?" Voress asked. "I do not know yet. I have been focused on keeping him alive." Voress touched his communication device. "Security, this is the captain. Send a team to Cargo Bay 7. I want to know what happened there. Pull all video records from the last hour. They waited. Vrix continued his work. He repaired blood vessels. He set bones. He cleaned and sealed wounds. The human body was remarkably cooperative. It seemed to want to heal. Taemin's eyes opened after 20 minutes. They were unfocused at first. Then they found Vrix. "Hey, Doc," he said. His voice was weak but clear. Did Prin and Tala get out okay?" "Who?" Vrix asked, the two technicians. "The young ones. In the cargo bay." "Did they get out?" "I do not know about any technicians." "What happened?" Taemin closed his eyes. "Beam fell. They were right under it. I just had to hold it until they could run." Vrix stared at him. "You held a beam?" "Yeah, just for a minute. Maybe less. Then it got too heavy and I guess I dropped it." Captain Voris leaned closer. "Taemin, how much did this beam weigh?" "I don't know, Captain. Didn't have time to check the specs. It was one of the main support beams for the cargo frame." "Maybe 3 tons? 4? Vrix felt something cold run through his body. 3 tons. The human had held 3 tons of metal while 2 crew members escaped, with 17 bones breaking inside his body, with his lung collapsing, with internal bleeding starting in multiple organs. And then he had walked 3 decks to report his small accident. Voris touched Taemin's shoulder gently. "Rest now. We will talk more later." Taemin nodded and closed his eyes. Within seconds, he was asleep. Vrix checked the monitors again. Everything was stable. The human would live. Against all logic, against all medical knowledge, the human would live. "Captain," Vrix said quietly, "I need to update our medical protocols for humans. Our database is clearly inadequate." Voris looked at the sleeping human. "Update everything, Doctor. I think we are all learning that we do not understand humans as well as we thought." The security report came through 10 minutes later. 2 technicians, Prin and Tala, were found in Cargo Bay 7. They were unharmed. They were sitting on the floor crying. When asked what happened, they could only say one thing over and over. "The human saved us. The human saved us." Vrix looked at the scan one more time. 17 broken bones, 1 collapsed lung, multiple internal injuries. The human had done all this to save 2 young technicians he barely knew. What kind of species does this? Vrix thought. What kind of creature looks at certain death and chooses to save others anyway? He did not have an answer, but he knew one thing. He needed to learn everything he could about humans, because nothing in his medical training had prepared him for this. The sunlights on the medical bay were set to a soft blue, the color that most species found calming. Vrix had not left Taemin's side for 6 hours. He watched the monitors constantly, expecting something to go wrong, but nothing did. The human's body was healing itself at a rate that made no sense. The bone regenerator usually took 12 hours to fully repair a simple fracture in most species. With Taemin, the bones were knitting together in 4 hours. Vrix could see it happening in real time on the scanner. The broken pieces were pulling toward each other. New bone material was forming at the fracture sites. The speed was incredible. "Dr. Vrix?" Prilla approached with a data pad. "I have analyzed the human's cellular activity. The results are unusual." Vrix took the pad and read the report. The human cells were working at 3 times their normal rate. The immune system was in full activation mode. White blood cells were flooding the injury sites. Proteins were being manufactured and distributed at unprecedented levels. The body was throwing everything it had at the damage. "This is not normal human healing," Vrix said. "I checked the database. This is accelerated." "Yes, doctor. I believe it is what humans call an adrenaline response. The body releases chemicals during extreme stress. These chemicals increase heart rate, dilate blood vessels, and accelerate healing. Most species have something similar, but human adrenaline is much more powerful." Vrix looked at the sleeping human. "How long can this state last?" "Unknown, doctor. Human medical files suggest it can continue for hours or even days in extreme circumstances." The medical bay doors opened. A human woman entered. She was tall and thin, with long dark hair pulled back in a simple tie. Her uniform identified her as Hannah, the ship's chief botanist. "How is he?" she asked immediately. "Stable," Vrix replied. "His recovery is progressing well." "Better than I expected." Hannah walked to the medical bed and looked down at Taemin. She smiled slightly. "Of course he is. Taemin is tough. He grew up in Busan. Those coastal city people are stubborn. Miss Hannah, I must ask you questions about human physiology. Our medical database is clearly incomplete." "Sure, Doc. What do you need to know?" Vrix gestured to the scanner display. He had 17 broken bones, a collapsed lung, severe internal injuries. He walked 3 decks and climbed 2 ladders before seeking medical attention. This should be impossible. Hana nodded as if he had just described something completely normal. Yeah, that sounds like Tae-min. He probably didn't want to make a fuss. Make a fuss? Brix's translator struggled with the phrase. He was dying. Maybe. But humans can function through a lot of damage if they need to. Our ancestors survived by being persistent. We hunted animals by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. Sometimes that took days. We ran with broken bones, torn muscles, empty stomachs. We didn't stop because stopping meant death. Brix tried to process this information. So humans evolved to ignore pain? Not ignore. We feel pain just like everyone else. Maybe more than some species, but we can choose to act anyway. It's a mental thing as much as a physical thing. The brain can override the body's warning signals when survival is at stake. But he was not in a survival situation. He came to report his injuries. Hana laughed softly. To Tae-min, making sure those 2 technicians were safe was survival. Not his survival, theirs. Once he knew they were okay, his brain probably let him feel the injuries. That's when he collapsed. Prilla spoke up. This makes no evolutionary sense. Self-preservation should be the primary instinct. It is for most things, Hana agreed, but humans are social creatures. We survived because we protected each other. A human who saves the group has more evolutionary value than a human who saves himself. It's built into our psychology. Vrix was beginning to understand, but it still seemed wrong. The pain alone should have shut down his nervous system. Human nervous systems are weird, Hana said. She sat down in a chair near the medical bed. We have multiple pain response systems. The body releases natural painkillers during trauma. Endorphins, they're not as strong as medical drugs, but they help. And humans can consciously suppress pain responses when needed. It's not perfect, but it works, and for how long? Depends on the person and the situation. Some humans have walked for miles with broken legs. Others have fought battles with fatal wounds. There are records of mothers lifting vehicles off their children, weights that should be physically impossible to move. The human body can do incredible things when it decides survival is necessary. Vrix checked Taemin's vital signs again. Heart rate was decreasing to normal levels. Blood pressure was good. Temperature was slightly elevated but within acceptable range. His bones are healing much faster than our database suggests is normal, Vrix said. Oh yeah, human bones are really good at repairing themselves. They actually get stronger at the breakpoint once they heal. It's called a callus. The new bone grows back denser than before. So breaking bones makes humans stronger. Hana laughed again. In a way, yes. Not that we try to break bones on purpose. But the body learns from damage, it adapts. That's kind of our thing, adapting. The monitors beeped. Taemin's eyes opened slowly. He looked around, confused for a moment. Then his gaze found Hana. Hey, he said. His voice was rough. What time is it? About 1300 hours, Hana replied. You've been out for 9 hours. 9 hours? Taemin tried to sit up. Vrix immediately moved to stop him. Please remain still, Vrix said firmly. Your bones are still healing. Taemin looked down at his body. His left arm was wrapped in a regeneration cast. His chest was covered in medical sensors. His leg was immobilized in a support frame. Okay, he said. That's fair. How bad was it? 17 broken bones, Vrix said. Collapsed lung. Internal bleeding in 3 locations. Severe bruising throughout your torso. Taemin whistled softly. Huh, that's more than I thought. More? Vrix's voice rose. You thought it was less? I mean, I knew the arm was broken. And probably some ribs. The leg hurt, but I wasn't sure if it was broken or just bruised. I didn't know about the lung thing. Hana shook her head. Taemin, you are such an idiot. Hey, Prin and Tala are okay, right? They're fine. You saved them. They've been asking about you every hour. Taemin relaxed back into the bed. Good, that's good. Then it was worth it. Vrix stared at him. You nearly died, but I didn't, and they're alive. So it worked out. This is not logical, Taemin smiled. Probably not. But it's human. Over the next few hours, Vrix ran every test he could think of. He measured Taemin's pain tolerance, his healing rate, his cellular activity. He compared everything to the standard database entries for humans. Everything was within normal ranges, but at the high end of every scale. Taemin was not special for a human. He was average, which meant every human on the ship had this capacity. Every human could potentially survive catastrophic injuries. Every human could function through pain that would kill other species. Vrix updated his medical files with careful notes. He marked sections for review. He flagged areas where the database was clearly wrong or incomplete. As he worked, he watched Taemin talk with Hana. They spoke about normal things, their work, their friends, their plans for next shore leave. They laughed about something someone had said at dinner 2 nights ago. They were completely casual, as if 17 broken bones was just a minor inconvenience. Maybe for humans it was. Vrix had thought he understood the species that traveled among the stars. He had treated hundreds of races. He knew their biologies, their chemistries, their tolerances. But humans were different. They were built for survival in ways he had never encountered. They were stubborn and persistent and somehow fragile and incredibly strong at the same time. And they would break themselves to save others without hesitation. Vrix made a final note in his report. Human crew members require updated medical protocols. Standard pain management and recovery timelines do not apply. Recommend psychological evaluation to understand motivations for self-sacrifice. Further study needed on all aspects of human survival capabilities. He sent the report to Captain Vores and to the medical database administrators. Other ships needed to know this. Other doctors needed to understand. Humans were not what they seemed. They were so much more. Kelvan reviewed the security footage for the 7th time. As the ship's chief security officer, he prided himself on his attention to detail. His species, the Vrath, were known for their logical minds and their ability to see patterns others missed, but this footage challenged everything he understood about behavior and survival. The timestamp showed 03:16 hours. Cargo Bay 7 was quiet. 2 young technicians were performing routine maintenance on the support frame that held cargo containers in place during flight. Their names were Prin and Tala. Both were barely adults of their species. Prin was a small blue-skinned Trill. Tala was a Harvan with 4 arms and a gentle disposition. They worked carefully, checking connections and testing weight distributions. Standard procedure. Nothing unusual. Then, at exactly 3:23 hours, the main support beam detached. Kelvan slowed the footage down. He could see the exact moment the connection failed. The beam was massive. A solid piece of reinforced titanium alloy, 12 meters long and 3 tons in weight. It fell toward the 2 technicians. They did not see it coming. They were focused on their work, but someone else saw it. Taemin had been 3 meters away, running a diagnostic on a power coupling. The footage showed him turning his head at the sound of metal breaking. His eyes went wide. He saw the beam falling. He saw where it would land. Kelvan watched what happened next. Taemin did not run away. He did not call for help. He did not freeze. He ran forward. He moved faster than Kelvan had ever seen a human move. In 2 seconds, he covered the distance and positioned himself directly under the falling beam. He raised his arms above his head. The beam hit him. The sound on the recording was terrible, a deep thud that echoed through the cargo bay. Taemin's knees buckled, his arms bent. But he did not fall. Kelvan could see the muscles in the human's legs straining. He could see Taemin's face twist in pain. But he held the beam. Prin. Tala, move! The audio picked up Taemin's voice. It was tight with effort, but still clear. Now, get out now! The 2 technicians looked up. They saw the beam. They saw Taemin holding 3 tons of metal above their heads. They scrambled backward, their movements clumsy with panic. It took them 11 seconds to get clear of the danger zone. Taemin held the beam for 47 seconds total. Kelvan had done the calculations. A human male of average build could lift approximately 80 kilograms over his head under normal circumstances. Taemin was holding 3,000 kilograms. The only reason it was possible at all was that the beam was partially resting on the support frame behind him. But he was still supporting at least 1,500 kilograms. It should have crushed him instantly. But humans did not follow the rules. The footage showed Taemin's arms shaking. Blood was dripping from his mouth. His left leg was bending at a wrong angle. But he did not let go. Finally, when the 2 technicians were safe, Taemin's strength gave out. The beam fell. He fell with it, managing somehow to roll to the side so it did not land directly on him. But the impact still caught his left side. The beam crashed to the floor with a sound like thunder. Taemin lay still for a moment. Then, impossibly, he stood up. He walked to the wall and pressed the emergency comm button. Medical, this is Taman in Cargo Bay 7. I had a small accident. I am heading to the medical bay now. The 2 technicians here are unharmed. His voice on the recording was calm, almost casual. Then he walked out of the cargo bay. Kelvin stopped the footage. He sat back in his chair and processed what he had seen. Prin and Tala had stayed in the cargo bay for 17 minutes after Taman left. The footage showed them sitting on the floor holding each other. They were crying. Their bodies shook with sobs. Kelvin understood their reaction. They had nearly died. They were saved by someone who sacrificed himself without hesitation. The psychological impact of that would stay with them for years. He prepared his report and went to find them. They were in their shared quarters, still together. Neither had gone to their own room since the incident. May I enter? Kelvin asked through the door. Yes. Prin's voice was small. Inside, the 2 young technicians sat on a couch. Their eyes were red from crying. They looked up at Kelvin with expressions of fear and sadness. I need your statements about what happened, Kelvin said gently. His species was not known for gentleness, but he tried. It is our fault, Tala said immediately. We killed him. Taman is not dead, Kelvin replied. He is in the medical bay. Dr. Vrick says he will recover fully. Both technicians stared at him. He is alive? Prin whispered. Yes. He has many injuries, but he will live. They started crying again, but this time with relief. Tell me what you remember, Kelvin said. Prin spoke first. We were checking the support connections. I was testing the western clamps. Tola was measuring stress on the eastern side. We did not see the beam come loose. I heard something, Tola added, a cracking sound. But before I could look up, Taman was there. He was holding the beam. He told us to run. Did he say anything else? Just to move, Prin said. He said it very calmly, like it was not an emergency. Like he was not in terrible pain. How long did it take you to reach safety? I do not know. 10 seconds? Maybe 15? It felt like forever. It was 11 seconds, Kelvin said. He held the beam for 47 seconds total. Both technicians looked at him with wide eyes. That is impossible, Tala said. I have reviewed the footage multiple times. It is accurate. We killed him, Prin said again. If we had been more careful with the connection. No, Kelvin interrupted firmly. I reviewed the maintenance logs. You followed every procedure correctly. The connection failed due to metal fatigue that was not detectable with your equipment. This was not your fault. But he got hurt because of us. He got hurt because he chose to save you. That was his decision. They were quiet for a long moment. Why would he do that? Tola asked quietly. We are not important. We are just junior technicians. He is a senior engineer. The ship needs him more than it needs us. Why would he trade his life for ours? Kelvin had asked himself the same question. I do not fully understand human psychology. But from what I have observed, humans do not calculate value the way we do. They see someone in danger and they act. They do not consider the consequences to themselves. That is illogical. Yes, but it is very human. Kelvin left them after taking their full statements. He went to the medical bay next. He needed to see Taman himself. The human was awake, talking with Hana. He looked pale and tired, but he was smiling about something. Taman, Kelvin said. May I speak with you? Sure, Kelvin. What's up? Kelvin found the human's casual tone unsettling. I reviewed the footage of the incident. I need to include your statement in my report. Okay, what do you need to know? Why did you put yourself in danger to save Prin and Tala? Taman looked confused by the question. Because they would have died? You nearly died, nearly. But I didn't, and they're okay. You could not have known you would survive. No, Taman agreed, but I knew they wouldn't survive if I did nothing. So I did something. This is not logical. Your survival should have been your priority. Taman was quiet for a moment. Maybe it's not logical. But they're kids, Kelvin. They're just kids. I'm 34 years old. I've lived a good life. If I had to trade my life for theirs, that would have been okay. They deserve a chance to live too. Kelvin processed this. So you made a calculated decision that their lives had more value than yours? No, I didn't calculate anything. I just saw them in danger and I moved. There wasn't time to think. There was only time to act. You acted on instinct, I guess. Is that weird? Yes, Kelvin said honestly. Most species have an instinct for self-preservation. You have an instinct for other preservation. Taemin smiled. I never thought about it like that. But yeah, I suppose humans do look out for each other. Kelvan completed his report that evening. He included the footage, the statements, the calculations. He noted that the beam failure was due to metal fatigue, not negligence. He recommended new inspection protocols for all support structures. But he also included a section about Taemin's actions. He wrote, "The human crew member displayed exceptional courage and self-sacrifice. He sustained life-threatening injuries to save 2 junior crew members. His actions were not logical from a survival standpoint, but they were consistent with human behavioral patterns. Recommend further study of human decision-making processes during emergency situations. Also recommend official commendation for Taemin for his actions." He sent the report to Captain Voris. That night, Kelvan could not stop thinking about the footage. He had seen many acts of courage in his career. He had seen soldiers face danger for their comrades. He had seen parents protect their children. But he had never seen someone choose certain death for strangers without any hesitation. Humans were strange. They were illogical. They made decisions that made no sense. But Kelvan realized something. Maybe the galaxy needed that kind of strangeness. Maybe pure logic was not enough. Maybe sometimes you needed someone who would hold up 3 tons of metal just because someone else needed them to. The news traveled fast through the horizon's edge. Within 12 hours, every crew member knew what had happened in Cargo Bay 7. They knew about the falling beam. They knew about the human who held it. They knew about 17 broken bones and 47 seconds of impossible strength. The ship's communication systems buzzed with conversations. Crew members who had never spoken to Taemin before suddenly wanted to know everything about him. The humans on the ship found themselves answering the same questions over and over. Is it true he held 3 tons? Did he really walk 3 decks with a collapsed lung? Would other humans do the same thing? In the ship's mess hall, a group gathered around the large table where the senior crew usually ate. Captain Voris had called a meeting. He wanted to discuss the incident and its implications. Present were the department heads. Vrix from Medical, Kelvan from Security, Navigation Officer Threx, Engineering Chief Mira, and the 3 other humans on board, Daehyun the pilot, Yuna the navigator, and Quan the research scientist. I have read all the reports, Captain Voris began. His 8 legs shifted as he settled into his seat. What Taemin did was remarkable, but I need to understand if this behavior is normal for humans. Define normal, Daehyun said. He was a stocky man with short black hair and quick eyes. Taemin did what most humans would do in that situation. Most humans would sacrifice themselves? Threx asked. The reptilian navigation officer's voice was skeptical. If it meant saving someone else? Yeah, probably. That makes no evolutionary sense, Mira said. Her species, the Keltar, were known for their engineering skills and their logical approach to problems. Self-preservation is the foundation of all life, Yuna spoke up. She was younger than the other humans with long hair and a quiet voice. For most species, yes. But humans are different. We survived by working together. A human alone usually dies. A group of humans can survive anything. But Taemin was alone when he made his choice, Kelvan pointed out. No, Quan said. He was the oldest of the humans in his 50s with gray hair and steady hands. He was not alone. Prin and Tala were there. In that moment, they were his group. His tribe. Humans protect their tribe. But he barely knew them, Vrix said. Doesn't matter. They were crew. That makes them tribe. Captain Voris leaned forward. I need to understand this better. Please explain human history to me. Help me understand why you are this way. The 3 humans looked at each other. Daehyun nodded to Quan, who seemed to be collecting his thoughts. Okay, Quan said. Humans evolved on a planet that was trying to kill us. We were not the strongest. We were not the fastest. We did not have claws or thick skin or venom. What we had was each other. He paused to take a sip of water. Early humans survived because we worked in groups. We hunted together. We protected each other. A human who helped the group was more likely to have their genes passed on. A human who only thought of themselves often died alone. So self-sacrifice became genetically favorable, Threx said. In a way, yes, but it is more than genetics. It is culture. It is training. Human children are taught from birth to help others. We tell stories about heroes who save people. We give awards to people who risk their lives for strangers. We celebrate self-sacrifice, Yuna added. We have a saying, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. It is one of our oldest ideas. But Prin and Tala were not his friends. Mira insisted. Doesn't matter, Dae-hyun said firmly. They were people in danger. That is enough. Fricks pulled up some files on his datapad. I have been researching human history since the incident. I found thousands of examples of similar behavior. Soldiers who threw themselves on explosives to save their comrades, parents who ran into burning buildings to save children, strangers who jumped into rivers to save drowning people. This pattern appears in every human culture across your planet's history. Not all humans do this, Quan said honestly. Some humans are cowards. Some only think of themselves. But enough humans act heroically that it defines our species. Captain Voris was quiet for a long moment. I have known humans for 5 years now. Since your species joined the interstellar community, I thought I understood you. I thought you were simply aggressive, warlike. Your history is full of conflicts. We do fight a lot, Dae-hyun agreed. But I was wrong about what that meant. You do not fight because you love violence. You fight to protect. Even your wars are often about defending something or someone. Not always, Quan said. Sometimes we fight for stupid reasons. For resources or territory or pride. We are not perfect. No species is perfect. But your instinct to protect others even at cost to yourself, this is unique. I have served with 70 different species in my career. I have never seen this pattern in any other race. Some species protect their young, Vrick said. That is universal. But humans extend that protection to everyone, even strangers, even members of other species. We have big hearts, Yuna said with a small smile, sometimes too big. Dae-hyun pulled up a file on his own datapad.
Can I share something?
I brought some historical records from Earth, things I thought might be useful if anyone wanted to understand humans better. Please, Captain Voris said. Dae-hyun connected his pad to the main display. Images appeared on the wall screen. This is from a war on Earth about 80 years ago. The soldier's name was Min-seok. His unit was retreating under heavy fire. One of his friends was wounded and could not walk. The commanders ordered everyone to leave the wounded behind. Min-seok refused. He carried his friend for 6 kilometers while enemies were shooting at them. He was hit 4 times, but he did not stop. His friend survived. Min-seok spent 2 months in a hospital recovering. Another image appeared. This is Ji-woo. She was a teacher. There was an earthquake that collapsed her school. She was on the 2nd floor with her students. The stairs were destroyed. She used her own body as a bridge so the children could climb down. She held herself between 2 pieces of concrete for 40 minutes until all 23 children were safe. Her spine was crushed. She never walked again, but all the children lived. More images followed. This is Bora. She was a doctor during a plague outbreak. She stayed in the infected zone to treat patients when everyone else evacuated. She worked for 6 months straight. She saved hundreds of lives. She died from the plague herself, but she never left her patients. The humans were quiet as Dae-hyun showed more examples. The alien crew members watched with increasing amazement. How many examples do you have? Threx asked quietly. Thousands. These are just from the last 100 years. If I went back through all of human history, I could show you millions of stories like this. Captain Voris stood up. His legs clicked against the floor as he moved to the window. Outside, the stars moved slowly past. When humans first applied to join the interstellar community, there was debate. Many species thought you were too violent, too aggressive, too dangerous. Your planet's history showed constant warfare. Some wanted to deny your application. He turned back to face the group. I was one of those who argued for acceptance. Not because I thought you were peaceful, I knew you were not. But because I saw something in human behavior that I thought the galaxy needed. I saw persistence. I saw creativity. I saw problem-solving ability. He paused. But I did not see this. I did not understand that humans would sacrifice themselves for others without hesitation. I did not know that you carry this instinct to protect into everything you do. We are not special, Quan said. We just do what seems right. That is exactly what makes you special, Voris replied. Most species must be taught to act against self-interest. For humans it is natural, Vrick spoke up. I have been updating our medical files on humans. I have been adding notes about pain tolerance, healing rates, and physical capabilities. But I realize now that I also need to add psychological profiles. Future medical officers need to understand that humans will minimize their injuries. They will claim to be fine when they are not. They will refuse treatment if they think others need it more. That is a problem, Mira said. How can we keep humans safe if they will not tell us when they are hurt? You can't, Daehyun said with a slight smile. Humans are stubborn. We will do what we think is right even if it hurts us. Even if it kills you, Kelvon added. Especially then. The meeting continued for another hour. The crew discussed new safety protocols. They talked about how to monitor human crew members better. They debated whether humans needed special training to be more cautious, but underlying all of it was a new understanding. Humans were not what they had seemed. They were not reckless or stupid. They were not ignoring danger out of ignorance. They saw the danger clearly. They understood the cost. They simply chose to act anyway because someone needed help. As the meeting ended, Captain Voris made an announcement. I am sending a report to the Galactic Council about this incident. I am recommending that other ships with human crew members receive updated training materials. All captains should understand what humans are capable of, and what we're willing to do, Yuna added softly. Yes, that too. That evening, Prin and Tala asked to visit Taemin in the medical bay. Vrix allowed it, though he limited the visit to 10 minutes. The two young technicians stood by the medical bed. Taemin smiled at them. Hey, you two. How are you doing? They both started crying. We are sorry, Prin said through tears. We are so 3 days after the incident. Taemin was sitting up in the medical bay bed working on a data pad. His left arm was still in a regeneration cast, but most of his other injuries had healed enough that he could move without too much pain. The medical monitors around him beeped softly, tracking his vital signs. Vrix entered the bay carrying a stack of papers and looking frustrated. Good morning, Doctor, Taemin said cheerfully. You look stressed. I am trying to write a paper for the Xenobiology Journal, Vrix replied, about human recovery rates. But every time I write down what I have observed with you, the computer flags it as impossible. What do you mean? Vrix set down his papers and pulled up a scan on the wall display. This is your left femur from 3 days ago. It was broken completely through. This is the same bone now. It has almost completely healed. The computer says this should take 6 weeks. It has taken 3 days. Taemin looked at the scan. Huh, that's pretty fast, I guess. Pretty fast. Taemin, this is unprecedented. Your cellular regeneration rate is 3 times faster than our database says is normal for humans. Maybe I'm a fast healer. Or maybe humans are much better at healing than your medical files indicate. Vrix sat down heavily in a chair. I have been a doctor for 37 years. I thought I understood biology, but humans break all the rules. Sorry about that. Do not apologize. I find it fascinating. Frustrating, but fascinating. Over the past 3 days, Vrix had documented everything about Taemin's recovery. The way his bones knitted together with unusual speed. The way his body controlled inflammation and swelling. The way he voluntarily suppressed pain responses. Can I ask you about pain? Vrix said. Sure. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is your pain level right now? Taemin considered. Maybe a 3? It's not too bad. Vrix checked his monitors. Your neural indicators suggest it should be at least a 7. You have multiple healing fractures. You should be in significant discomfort. I mean, yeah, it hurts, but it's not unbearable. I can work through it. Why do you work through it? I can increase your pain medication. Nah, I'm okay. The medication makes me foggy. I prefer to stay clear-headed. This was another thing Vrix had noticed. Humans often refused pain medication unless the pain was extreme. They seemed to prefer feeling discomfort over being mentally impaired. This makes no sense from a medical standpoint, Vrix said. Pain is a warning signal. You should not ignore it. I'm not ignoring it. I'm just acknowledging it and choosing to function anyway. There's a difference. Vrix made another note on his data pad. The medical bay doors opened and Hana entered carrying a small plant in a pot. Brought you something, she said to Taemin. Thought you might want some green in here. Taemin smiled. Thanks, Hana. What is it? It's a succulent from my lab. Very low maintenance. Like you. I'm not low maintenance. I'm literally in medical right now. Only because a building fell on you. It was just a beam. A 3-ton beam. They argued playfully while Vrix observed. This was another aspect of human psychology he was documenting. Humans used humor to deal with trauma. They made jokes about terrible things. It seemed to help them process difficult experiences. "How's the ship?" Taemin asked. "Running fine. Engineering team has been pulling double shifts to cover your work. They all send their regards, by the way, and also they told me to tell you to stop checking your messages and just rest." Taemin looked guilty. "I'm just keeping up with the reports. You have 17 broken bones, 16 now. The ribs are healed." Hana looked at Vrix. "Is that true?" "Yes," Vrix confirmed. "His ribs have fully regenerated." "It is remarkable, see?" Taemin said. "I'm doing great. You were dying 3 days ago, but I'm not dying now. So progress." Vrix watched this exchange with interest. Humans seemed to bounce back from physical trauma with unusual speed, but they also mentally adjusted quickly. Taemin showed no signs of psychological distress from his near-death experience. He was calm, positive, and already thinking about returning to work. The doors opened again. This time, Prin and Tala entered hesitantly. "Is it okay if we visit?" Prin asked quietly. "Of course," Vrix said, "but only for a few minutes. He still needs rest." The two young technicians approached the bed. They had visited every day since the incident. Each time they looked at Taemin with expressions of awe and gratitude. "How are you feeling?" Tala asked. "Much better, thanks." "How are you two doing?" "We are well. We returned to duty yesterday." "That's good. I was worried you might be too shaken up to work." Prin shook her head. "We were scared at first, but Counselor Vex has been helping us process what happened." "Good. Make sure you keep talking to someone if you need to. That kind of thing can stick with you." "We have been talking," Tala said. "Mostly about you." "Me? We don't understand why you did what you did. We have asked everyone. We have read about humans. But we still don't understand." Taemin was quiet for a moment. "What don't you understand?" "Why you would choose to hurt yourself for us." "We are not important. We are just junior technicians. You are a senior engineer. The ship needs you." "The ship needs everyone," Taemin said gently. "You're important. Your lives matter just as much as mine. But you almost died. But I didn't. And you're alive. So everything worked out." Prin wiped her eyes. "We will never forget what you did for us, and that's not necessary. I just did what anyone would do." "No," Tala said firmly. "Not anyone. Most people would have run away. Most people would have saved themselves. You saved us instead." Taemin looked uncomfortable with the praise. "Look, I appreciate that you're grateful, but I don't want you to feel like you owe me anything. You don't. I'm just glad you're okay." After they left, Hana turned to Taemin. "You really don't think what you did was special, do you?" "No. I mean, I did what I had to do." "Taemin, you held up 3 tons of metal while your bones were breaking. That's pretty special." "Adrenaline is a hell of a thing," Vrix interrupted. "It was not just adrenaline. I have reviewed your hormone levels from when you arrived at medical. Yes, your adrenaline was elevated, but not enough to account for your strength. You were operating on willpower." "I don't know about that." "I do. I have the data. Somehow, humans can override their physical limitations through mental determination. You decided you would hold that beam and your body obeyed even when it should have been impossible." Taemin shrugged with his good shoulder. "Maybe humans are just stubborn." Over the next few days, more crew members visited. Engineers came to discuss ongoing projects. Security officers stopped by to thank him for inspiring them. Even Captain Vores visited to present him with a commendation for bravery. "I don't deserve this," Taemin protested. "You absolutely do," Vores replied. "What you did saved 2 lives. That deserves recognition. I just did my job. Your job is engineering, not self-sacrifice. I thought my job was keeping the crew safe. That includes the technicians." Vores looked at him with his multiple eyes. "This is what I am learning about humans. You do not separate your duties into neat categories. Everything is about protecting others. Not everything. I'm also pretty good at fixing engines." Despite his protests, Taemin accepted the commendation. Vrix added it to the medical file, noting that humans often downplayed their own heroic actions. On the 5th day, Vrix ran a final series of tests. Taemin's bones had healed completely. His lung function was normal. His internal injuries had resolved. There was no reason to keep him in medical any longer. "You are cleared to return to light duty," Vrix announced, "but no heavy lifting for another week. No carrying 3-ton beams. Got it. Please do not joke about that." "Sorry, Doc. But seriously, thank you for taking care of me. It is my job. Though I must admit, treating humans is unlike treating any other species. Is that good or bad? Both. You are difficult patients because you do not follow standard recovery protocols. But you are also fascinating because you heal in ways that should not be possible. Taemin gathered his belongings. As he prepared to leave, Vrick stopped him. May I ask you one final question? Sure. If you had to do it again, knowing the injuries you would sustain, would you still save Prin and Tala? Taemin didn't hesitate. Yes, absolutely, every time. Even if the injuries were worse? Even if you knew you might die? Even then? They're kids, Vrix, they deserve a chance to live. And you do not? I've lived 34 good years. If trading my life for theirs was the only option, I'd take that trade. No question. Vrix watched him leave the medical bay. The human walked with only a slight limp, barely noticeable. 5 days ago, he had been on the edge of death. Now he was returning to work as if nothing significant had happened. Vrix updated his files one final time. He added a section to the human medical database. Note to future medical officers. Humans will consistently underestimate their injuries and overestimate their recovery readiness. They will refuse treatment if they believe others need it more. They will sacrifice their own health for others without hesitation. Monitor human patients closely and do not rely solely on self-reporting of symptoms. Also note, human healing capabilities exceed standard database parameters. Update recovery timelines accordingly. He sent the files to the central medical database. Other doctors needed to know this. Other ships needed to. The report from the Horizon's Edge reached the Galactic Council 3 weeks after the incident. It was one of hundreds of reports the Council received daily from ships across known space. Most were routine. This one was not. Ambassador Thyra read the report in her office on the Council station. Her crystalline body refracted light as she moved, casting rainbow patterns on the walls. She had served on the Council for 40 years, reviewing applications from species seeking advanced partnership status. She thought she had seen everything, but this report made her pause. A human crew member had sustained 17 broken bones and a collapsed lung, while saving 2 junior technicians. He had held a 3-ton beam for 47 seconds. He had walked 3 decks to seek medical treatment. He had recovered in 5 days. Thyra read the attached medical files. She reviewed the security footage. She studied the psychological evaluations. Then she opened her communication panel and sent a message to the other council members. We need to discuss the human situation immediately. The emergency session convened 2 hours later. The council chamber was a vast circular room with seats for representatives from 63 species. Only the inner council of 12 met for this session. Thyra called the meeting to order. Thank you for coming on short notice. I have received a concerning report from the Horizon's Edge. Concerning how? Asked Counselor Veth, a tall insectoid being with multiple limbs. It challenges our assessment of human capabilities and psychology. She displayed the report on the central screens. The council members read in silence. This cannot be accurate, Veth said finally. No creature survives these injuries. The medical data must be flawed. I had the same thought, so I contacted Dr. Vrix directly. He confirmed every detail. He also sent me updated medical files on humans. Their healing capabilities are far beyond what our databases suggest. Counselor Morax, an aquatic being whose tank bubbled softly, spoke next. Even if the medical data is accurate, this is one incident. One human acting irrationally. It does not change our understanding of the species. That is where you are wrong, Thyra said. She pulled up more files. After reading this report, I began investigating. I sent queries to every ship with human crew members. I asked about similar incidents. She displayed the responses on the screens. In the past year alone, there have been 47 documented cases of humans risking their lives to save others. 23 cases of humans sustaining serious injuries while protecting crew members. 15 cases of humans solving critical emergencies through methods that other species considered impossible. The council members were silent. These are not isolated incidents, Thyra continued. This is a pattern. Humans consistently act in ways that prioritize others over themselves. They endure pain and injury that would incapacitate other species. They recover from trauma that should be fatal. They are dangerous, Veth said. This confirms what we suspected when they applied for membership. They are a warrior species, aggressive, violent. No, Thera replied firmly. They are not dangerous. They are protective. There is a difference. She pulled up more data. I reviewed human history. Yes, they have fought many wars. But I also found thousands of examples of humans saving each other, soldiers who protected civilians, doctors who treated plague victims, engineers who fixed failing stations at risk to their own lives. This is not a violent species. This is a species that cannot stand to see others suffer. Counselor Vess, an elder being with 6 eyes and purple skin, leaned forward. What are you proposing? I am proposing that we were wrong about humans. We judged them based on their conflict history. We did not understand their motivation. They do not fight because they love war. They fight to protect, and you know this how? Thera displayed a new file. Because I asked them. I spoke with Ambassador Hana on the Horizon's Edge. I asked her to explain human psychology. She told me about something humans call the thin red line. She played an audio recording. Hana's voice filled the chamber. In human history, we have a concept called the thin red line. It's the idea that sometimes someone has to stand between danger and innocent people. Someone has to hold the line. It doesn't matter if you're scared. It doesn't matter if you might die. Someone has to do it. So humans step forward. We hold the line. Because if we don't, who will? The council chamber was quiet. I do not understand, Veth said. Why would evolution favor this behavior? Self-sacrifice reduces individual survival, but it increases group survival, Thera explained. Humans are social creatures. They evolved in groups. A human who protects the group has more evolutionary value than a human who only protects themselves. Their entire culture is built around this principle. She displayed more examples from human history, stories of heroes who saved others, songs about sacrifice, awards given to those who risked their lives, children's stories about brave protectors. Every aspect of human culture reinforces this behavior, Thera said. They teach their children to help others. They celebrate those who sacrifice. They create legends about protectors. This is not a flaw in their psychology. This is the core of who they are. Counselor Morax bubbled thoughtfully in his tank. If this is true, why did we not see it before? Because we were not looking for it. We saw their wars and assumed they were violent. We saw their aggression and assumed they were dangerous. We did not look deeper to understand why they fought. Veth was still skeptical. Even if all of this is true, it does not change the fact that humans are unpredictable. They make illogical decisions. They act against their own interests. They act against their own survival interest to protect others, Thera corrected. That is not the same as being illogical. It is a different kind of logic. A moral logic rather than a survival logic. She pulled up the footage of Taiman holding the beam. The council watched in silence as the human strained under impossible weight. As he held on for 47 seconds, as he finally collapsed. Look at this, Thera said. This is not violence. This is not aggression. This is pure courage. This is someone choosing to suffer so others do not have to. The footage ended. The screens went dark. The galaxy needs this, Thera said quietly. We have many species that are logical, many that are advanced, many that are skilled. But how many species would do what this human did? How many would hold that beam? No one answered. I have reviewed hundreds of species in my career, Thera continued. I have seen many types of courage, but I have never seen this kind of selfless protection outside of parent-child relationships. Humans extend this protection to everyone, even strangers, even members of other species. She turned to face the full council. 3 years ago, we granted humans basic membership status. We allowed them to join our ships and stations on a trial basis. We were cautious because we feared their violent history. I believe we should reconsider their status, not because they are less dangerous than we thought, but because they are more valuable than we realized. You want to grant them advanced partnership status? Veth asked. I want to recognize what they truly are. They are not just another species seeking to explore the stars. They are potential guardians, protectors, the kind of people who will stand between danger and innocence no matter the cost to themselves. Counselor Vess spoke. This is a significant change in policy. We do not grant advanced status lightly. I know. That is why I am not asking for an immediate vote. I am asking for a full review. I want us to send investigators to every ship with human crew members. I want psychological evaluations. I want cultural assessments. I want us to truly understand this species before we make a decision. And if the investigation confirms what you believe, Morax asked. Then I will propose we do more than grant them advanced status. I will propose we create a new classification, guardian species, and I will recommend humans as the first species to receive it. The council debated for 3 hours. Some members agreed with Thera. Others remained skeptical, but all agreed that the evidence warranted further investigation. The motion passed. A full review would be conducted. As the council adjourned, Vess approached Thyra. You are taking a risk with this proposal. I know. If you are wrong, if humans prove to be dangerous, it will reflect poorly on your judgment. I am not wrong, Thyra said. I have read hundreds of reports now. I have spoken with dozens of crew members from ships with humans aboard. Every single one tells the same story. Humans protect others, sometimes recklessly, sometimes foolishly, but consistently. You sound certain? I am, because I have seen the pattern. Humans do not just talk about sacrifice. They live it. They embody it, and the galaxy needs people like that. Over the next month, investigators were dispatched to 40 ships with human crew members. They interviewed aliens who worked with humans. They reviewed incident reports. They conducted psychological tests. The reports that came back all said the same thing. Humans were protective, courageous, and willing to sacrifice themselves for others. They formed strong bonds with their crewmates. They solved problems creatively. They persisted through difficulties that would break other species. One report from the science vessel Discovery told the story of a human named Jun Ho, who stayed on a failing research station for 6 weeks after receiving the Guardian Species designation. Life on the horizon's edge had returned to normal. Taman was fully healed and back to his regular duties. His broken bones were now stronger than before, just as Vrix had predicted. The incident in Cargo Bay 7 was becoming a memory, but the galaxy had not forgotten. It was a quiet morning when the distress call came through. Captain Voris was in his quarters, reviewing supply manifests, when the ship's communication system activated with an urgent alert. Captain, we are receiving a priority distress signal, the communication officer announced. Colony Station Refuge 7. Environmental systems are failing. They have 600 residents and limited time. Voris immediately headed to the bridge. The crew was already gathering, their faces serious. Give me details, Voris ordered. The communication officer pulled up the data. Refuge 7 is a small colony in the disputed border region. They were hit by a solar flare 3 days ago. The radiation damaged their environmental processors. Life support is degrading. They estimate 48 hours before atmospheric conditions become fatal. What about rescue ships? The nearest council vessel is 4 days away. Commercial ships are refusing to enter disputed space due to territorial tensions. We are the closest ship that can reach them in time. Voris studied the star map. Refuge 7 was indeed close, only 18 hours away at maximum speed. But it was in a region claimed by 3 different species. Ships that entered risked being caught in crossfire. What is our current mission status? Voris asked. We completed our survey mission yesterday. We were scheduled to return to port for maintenance. We are technically off duty. Voris looked around the bridge. How many crew members do we have qualified for emergency environmental repair? 17, the engineering chief replied. But Captain, this is not our mission. We are not a rescue vessel. No. But we are the only option those colonists have. Vrix entered the bridge. I heard the distress call. If we are going, I need to prepare medical supplies. Radiation exposure will require specific treatments. We have not decided to go yet, the engineering chief said. This is dangerous. Disputed space. Failing systems. We could lose crew members. Voris knew he was right. This was the kind of mission where ships disappeared, where good intentions led to tragedy, where heroes died, but 600 people needed help. I will not order anyone to take this risk, Voris said carefully. This must be voluntary. Anyone who wants to participate can step forward. Anyone who chooses not to will face no judgment. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then Taman raised his hand. I'll go. Voris was not surprised. Thank you, Taman. Daehyun stepped forward. I'll pilot the shuttle. If we're going into disputed space, you'll need someone who can fly fast. Yuna raised her hand next. You'll need navigation support. I'm in, Quan nodded. Someone should evaluate the environmental systems. I have the background, Hana smiled slightly. If you're all going, someone needs to make sure you don't do anything stupid. I'm coming too. Forrest looked at the 5 humans standing before him. Every single human on the ship had volunteered. This could be fatal, he said quietly. You understand that? Yes, sir, Taemin replied. But 600 people will definitely die if we don't go. So the choice seems pretty clear. Vrix made a sound that might have been laughter or frustration. Of course. Of course all the humans volunteer immediately for the suicide mission. It's not a suicide mission, Daehyun said. It's just a really dangerous mission. That is the same thing. No, suicide is when you go knowing you'll die. We're